Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Steven Messner, and by day I am a reporter at PC Gamer, and by night I'm
fighting evil by moonlight.
After I finish saving the world though, I like to work on Chrono Mage, which is a 2D action roguelike where you play a time manipulating witch with less than a minute to save your dying father. But today I want to talk about something a little bit different. So last weekend I participated in Global Game Jam 2021. This year was a really important one for me though, because it was my first time doing Global Game Jam solo, and it was also the first time that I actually managed to finish the game within 48 hours. The theme for this game jam was Lost and Found, and so I made a 2D space sim called Laika, where you try to rescue the stray dog that the Soviets fired into space in 1957. I'm really proud of this game, and so in the description there's a link where you can go and you can play it right in your browser, and honestly it would mean so much to me if you took 5 minutes out of your day to go and play Laika and then, left a comment on the itch page or on this video just letting me know what you think and giving me your honest feedback. There's definitely parts of the game that are not good, but for a game made in 48 hours by a single person who only started developing games a year ago, I'm pretty proud of myself for it. I swear to God, patting myself on the back is not the purpose of this video. What I wanted to do is I wanted to reflect on some of the lessons and experiences I gained while developing Laika last weekend, and to tell you that you need to be participating in game jams, especially if you're like me, a relatively new developer who mostly works solo. So the first big reason that you need to be participating in game jams, especially if you're a new developer like I am, is that finishing a game is actually so motivating and inspiring. Now, put your hand up if this sounds something like you. You're a relatively new developer, you're working on your first big project, and you've realized at some point that you've definitely bitten off more than you can chew. That's the position I'm in with Chrono Mage, and it's not something that you should feel bad about. I actually think it's like a rite of passage for most new game developers to be in this position where you're like, oh shit, this is actually really hard and it's gonna take a lot longer than I thought it would. But the big problem with it is that finishing a game is a skill in and of itself. That's what every experienced developer has taught me that I've talked to over the past couple of years. Finishing a game is a skill. That's where game jams come in. Because you're setting out to finish a game in 48 hours, you're gonna get practice with that skill of finishing a game or doing things that you might not be dealing with in your main project. The reality is if you spend a year making your first game, you're missing out on a lot of valuable experience that you could have gained by making and finishing 6 smaller games in that same year. But that's why game jams are so vital, especially if you're new. They let you experiment and make mistakes and learn in a capacity that's really hard to do in a bigger project. More importantly, finishing a game is just really motivating and inspiring. When I finished Laika, it was a 48-hour whirlwind. On Saturday night, I guess Sunday morning, I was up until 4:30 in the morning working on the game. I went to bed for a few hours and woke up and basically had to crunch right up to the deadline just to get it in on time. It was a lot of hard work and I was exhausted. But you know what? The one thing I was excited about was waking up the next day after a very good night's sleep and getting started working on Chrono Mage again, because I felt like I had learned so much that I was excited to apply that learning into Chrono Mage. It also just feels really good. Game jams are this amazing litmus test where you get to make something in 48 hours and take a step back. It made me realize this is something that I could not have achieved a year ago. It allowed me to see all of the growth and learning that I've accomplished over the past year and see it in this one little package, this tiny little game that takes 5 minutes to play. It's my little baby. It feels really good. And by not participating in game jams, you're missing out on such a great feeling. The second big reason that you should participate in game jams is that you're gonna network and you're gonna build really valuable relationships. I think the biggest piece of advice that I would have for anyone getting into game development at this point, you got to join a community. I can't state this enough. Like, being a part of a community is so invaluable. You have to surround yourself with game developers who can mentor you, who you can ask questions to, and who will just keep you motivated and on track. Game jams are a fantastic way to plug into a specific community and meet new people who will do just that. You don't necessarily have to be a part of a team, but just being on a game jam Discord with everyone working over the 48 hours, you will naturally make some relationships and friendships with people that can pay off down the road big time. Both times that I've participated in Global Game Jam, I've walked away with relationships that I really cherish. With Laika, for example, I was working on that game solo, but it was around Saturday evening that I suddenly realized, man, I haven't even thought about making music for this game. So I started asking around the Global Game Jam Discord server that I was a part of, asking people for advice and if they knew any software where it would be really easy to slap together like a really, like a chip tune or something like that. And what ended up happening was this guy DM'd me. His name is Matthew O'Connor, and he explained that he was a composer working on a different project but had finished the music for it already and offered to help me out if I wanted music for my own game. I was a bit skeptical at first. I've never met this person. I didn't know what their skills were, but I decided, well, anything that they're gonna make is gonna be better than what I can do, so let's do it. We, talked for half an hour. I told him what the game was about. I told him the themes and the aesthetic I wanted and the emotional vibe I wanted to create, and then he set off and started working. A few hours later, he came back to me with a song that blew my goddamn mind. Listen to it. It's seriously so good that it's become my favorite part of Laika. Nothing that I made is my favorite part. It's the songs that Matthew O'Connor made. By the way, I also have a link in the description to his website, so you should definitely check him out. But the great thing is now I know someone who's an extremely talented composer who likes working with me and offered to help me with other projects down the road if I ever needed it. It feels like such an amazing connection to have. The other thing that I really love about game jams is it is a great way to get experience with building your personal brand and dipping your toes into marketing and self-promotion. I'll be honest, I am a chatty person. You probably don't even need me to tell you that. But I actually deal with extreme social anxiety, especially when it comes to self-promotion on social media. I watch a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race, and RuPaul would definitely call that your
inner saboteur. There's always this negative voice in your head that's saying, you're not smart enough, you're too old, you're too fat, you're not good enough.
Game jams are actually a really great way to get over that fear because it gives you a project that you're excited about and that you can share to other people and get them excited about too. It's also just a risk-free environment to dip your toes into things that you might not be thinking about with your main project, like how to write a really compelling pitch for your game's description on its Steam or itch page, or how to get good screenshots of your game, or a cool GIF that you can share around and maybe will go viral on social media. Once you're done doing a game jam, you should absolutely take the time to put it on itch.io and go through that whole process of, writing out what the game is about and keeping it updated and showing off screenshots and putting out promotional material and maybe even making concept art if you're skilled at making art. I work as a game journalist during my day job, and I think, anyone can tell you that the hardest part of making a game isn't just making it, it's also getting people to care about it. And so by practicing these skills with your small little game jam games that you only spent 48 hours making, it gives you a lot of valuable experience in how to write in a way that's compelling, or, take good screenshots, for example. Now, your game jam game probably won't turn you into a celebrity, and it probably won't go viral and get shared by millions of people. But if you take the time to promote it and talk about it, you will definitely gain a few fans and meet some fellow devs that you might not otherwise have had contact with. And you might even get some cool publicity out of it too. After I finished Laika, I woke up the next morning and was gobsmacked to learn that the Chinese Room, the developers of games like Amnesia, Machine for Pigs, or Dear Esther, had actually tweeted about it to their audience. Getting that kind of recognition just feels really good, but it can also open up doors for you down the road as well. But only if you take the time to talk and promote your game and put it up on the internet in a place where people can easily find it. Another thing I love about game jams is how they can free you from this thing that I like to call design paralysis. So with Chronomage, in my last developer log, actually, I talked about how one of my big regrets from 2020 is how much time I spent locked in design paralysis. I was so obsessed with worrying about how to do things right that I wasn't actually getting much done at all. But with 48 hours to make a game, you can't afford to sit around for 5 hours twiddling your thumbs trying to architect the perfect system. You just have to get messy and get started. It forces you to just start hacking things together and see seeing what works and what doesn't. And you're gonna learn a lot from that process, even though it's so messy and you'll probably cringe looking at your code. When making Laika, this lesson was really driven home for me. So Laika is a 2D space sim where you basically orbit Earth, right? So when I first sat down on Friday night and wanted to get started making it, I thought, why don't I just simulate actual orbital mechanics and space gravity? How hard could that be? It's really hard. I'm sure a better programmer could have done it in no time at all, but I'm not really a mathematician and I'm not really a great programmer. And so after about 4 hours of trying to get this thing working, it just wasn't getting anywhere and I knew that the clock was ticking. It was at this point that I went and talked to my wife and she gave me some amazing advice. She said, can't you just hack something together? And that's exactly what I did and that's exactly what ended up working. So instead of trying to simulate orbital mechanics and gravity and calculate perfectly circular orbits and things like that, I just decided to fudge it all by using a function in Unity's transform class called rotate around. It's a really simple solution, but it basically works. So instead of sitting there and obsessing over the right way to do something, I just got in and got something done. And really at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So yeah, game jams are exhausting, they're hard, they're challenging. There was parts where I wanted to pull my hair out, but the benefit that I got from that 48 hours absolutely feels worth it. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate it. I know that this video was a bit different from my usual devlogs, so it would mean a lot if you would take the time to, obviously like and subscribe, but also leave a comment. Tell me if you like these kinds of videos, if you want to see more of these kinds of things in the future. At this point, this channel is just a place for me to dump my thoughts and experiment with making videos about my game development journey. And so, I want to make stuff that you guys are enjoying as well. If you watch this video and you're like, I should definitely do a game jam, I have a link in the description to the itch.io game jam page. It's basically just this huge calendar with dozens of game jams that are either happening currently or coming up. So you can look at that page, you can see the different game jams that are happening, you can find one that sort of matches the scope or the style. Sometimes they have different themes or they focus on different aspects of game design or game development. You can find the one that's right for you and sign up and get started. I 100% recommend it. I don't think you're gonna regret it. And if you've never done one before, trust me, it's terrifying, it's scary, nobody likes to fail, but it's worth it. Definitely do it. Even if it's a complete disaster, you will learn so much in the process. So that's everything I have to say. Thanks so much for watching the video again, and I will see you guys next time.